So much. And good morning, everyone. I know it's around 9 a.m. I'm not sure if we have some folks joining online, but I hope you all had a coffee and we can stay alert and with the program here. If you don't mind, may I just have the remotes so I can go through the presentation? Thank you so much. But it's really a pleasure for me to be here today, and I want to thank the organizers for inviting me to talk about what UNODC is doing with youth empowerment and youth involvement. I have been with UNODC for 3 years now, and I actually started as an intern here myself, and so I know what it's like to work with a new organization, to start from here, and to see things maybe from a different perspective as a young person working in the UN, and I hope that I can bring these insights into the work that we're doing here. Why is youth empowerment important? I think this is something that's key. Obviously, we have a wealth of generations around the table here today, and I think we need to encourage and enhance intergenerational involvement. But when it comes to young people, we're facing different circumstances than previous generations may have faced. And we need to consider and encourage their involvement in all of the processes that have been built up by previous generations in order to make sure that there is a positive future. And so when we look at the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the Youth 2030 Strategy, and even our own 2021 to 2025 UNODC strategy, we see that there are these key components of young people across those statements. And that's why I'm able to speak to you today, is because there have been these strategies and ideas put forward, but also now there is emphasis from governments like the government of Costa Rica and the ambassador who spoke earlier, and others, including the Austrian government, who are in support of young people. And when we're talking about youth empowerment, it's not just saying, okay, yes, we're doing an initiative for young people, but we're working with young people. We're making sure that they're involved in different steps of the programmatic cycle. We're involving and ensuring places in decision-making processes, and we're even moving to see them as equals and experts in their own rights instead of having potentially a top-down perspective. And so when we're doing this, we really need to make sure that we are cooperating with external partners, in terms of the UN, with civil society organizations like many of you around the table here, academia, private sector, and regional organizations. And together we can move forward and do this. And so one thing that we're bringing together and we're launching officially in December 2022, so in just a couple months, is this Youth Empowerment Accelerator framework. And the idea is to gather all of our youth-focused initiatives under one kind of umbrella and use key youth mainstreaming actions, which I will explain later, to move forward and make sure that this is the starting place for all of the work we're doing. And so this Youth Empowerment Accelerator framework sits within the Strategic Planning and Interagency Affairs Unit, which is the unit that I'm part of. And this is where we start to coordinate on many of these issues. And it's situated here because we have, in this unit, we look both internally, what we're doing at UNODC inside, as well as with external partners. So it's a really well place to do this. I would also like to mention that when we are talking about youth, there's many definitions of who youth are, and youth are not a homogenous group. Just because someone is a young person doesn't mean that they're going to agree with another young person, and they may have other identities such that are also impact their views. At UNODC, we see individuals between the ages of 15 and 29 largely as considered youth, and so this is due to the DESA, the Department of Social and Economic Affairs. They have a range of 15 to 24 for young people, and different Security Council resolutions, namely 2250C 18 to 29 as youth. So we merged those two definitions together to come up with this one. But we also want to acknowledge that contextually, such as in the African Union, young people can be considered up to 35 based on the AU standard as well. And so this is an overview and a larger map, and I know it's a bit small for some of you maybe in the room here today, but just showing that we have a lot of youth initiatives across UNODC, and they span across all 5 thematic areas. So addressing the world drug problem, countering transnational organized crime, countering corruption, countering terrorism, and crime prevention and criminal justice. And because this event today is focused largely on preventing crime and creating healthy lifestyles, I really would like to focus on this last pillar and elaborate a bit more on some of the initiatives that we're doing. And one of them is this global initiative on youth crime prevention through sport. So we often work with communities at a local level and national governments to create sports initiatives to encourage young people to build social skills and other skills in order to make sure that they have something to do sometimes after school in different contexts. And it's also been proven as an effective tool for countering in crime prevention, countering organized crime, countering terrorism, et cetera. And we also have different youth empowerment projects. Specifically, I'm highlighting two of them. One is in Brazil, where there's a series of youth ambassadors that work on the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as one in the Middle East and North Africa region that focuses on working with youth-led organizations to empower young people. So if you're curious and want to find more about, I'll have a slide at the end where you can go to the UNODC youth website, and all of this information is very readily available and publicly, so happy to have you look there as well. And so when we're talking these youth mainstreaming actions, what does this mean? Because it can sound a little bit abstract. But what this means is that currently I help facilitate a youth community of practice within the organization. There's a UNODC youth website, and I'm also involved in many interagency coordination mechanisms. So I work with other UN entities to make sure that we have good processes for working with young people and to encourage collaboration amongst the entities. And this really culminates with civil society organizations as well, with the ECOSOC Youth Forum, which is held annually. In the last few years, because of the COVID crisis, it was online, but hopefully it will be in New York again this year. But this is one of the largest culminations of young people across the world. I think there was over 10,000 registrations for the event last year. So really happy to see strong efforts from young people. And then we also participate in the Youth 2030 high-level steering committee and the joint working group. So moving forward, we have some other actions that we need support from both member states and civil society in order to help implement. And I've listed some of them on the screen here today. One of them that I would like to highlight is youth forums, actually having places for young people to express their opinions and feed actively into many of the processes today. So for example, the Conference of the Parties that occurred this week, we had a youth consultation that took place last Thursday, inviting 55 young people from 33 countries to talk about youth empowerment and countering transnational organized crime. And it was a hybrid event, so some folks were here in person with us, and many people joined from all over the world online. And we discussed different ideas and how we can actively feed into the COP and some of the key actions there. There will be a report forthcoming, so happy to share that as well. And we're hoping not only to do this for the COP, but other places, and making sure, for example, the Commission on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice having space there. And then another thing that I would like to highlight is youth outreach. Unfortunately, UNODC does not have any currently have social media places that are actively engaging with young people. We are fortunate to have a LinkedIn and a Facebook and a YouTube, but many young people are not as actively involved on those sites today. And so we're looking to create a TikTok and perhaps an Instagram and make sure that we can engage and have more active conversations with young people. And then finally, I want to highlight this valued work experience component. Unfortunately, many young people at UNODC who are interns are still in unpaid positions today and are working for, they're not compensated. And I think that's something that needs to change. We're talking about the cost of living crisis and seeing prices go up for everyone, yet we have people working at our own organization who cannot sometimes make payments, and that is unacceptable in my opinion. Also, as a person who went through the internship program. I was only able to do so because I had a bursary from my university, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity, but I know that that's not available to everyone. And so when we're looking at creating a more diverse workforce, this is something that's essential to move forward. So that's the overview of the framework and some key actions that we hope to take place. Again, these are things that will require partnership and the work of everyone here to move forward. There's a QR code on the screen. You can scan it with your phone, and it'll take you to the UNODC youth website and the Youth Empowerment Accelerator framework. If you have any questions, my email is also on the bottom. But I want to thank you and happy to answer any questions should there be any at the end.
Thank you.